Hello everyone. Hope you're having a fabulous day. I'm here for episode 11 of Multifaceted, and I am very excited, even though it's kind of a intense and maybe a little bit of a heavy topic. I'm very excited to talk about this whole conversation around clearing through toxic relationship patterns, as this month of August is really all about relationships for this whole multifaceted conversation. Before I dive in, thank you so much for being here. If you're watching the replay, please let me know and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to hear your questions and your comments. And as always, this is a regular live series. This is episode number 11. Multifaceted is a live series that was born out of a desire to really start to delve into the multi-dimensional nature of who we are as human beings, and also of this whole coaching world and how we can be supported through so many different life experiences and so many things that we go through collectively as humans. It's one of the things that really we all can experience from time to time. Difficult relationships that cause us anything other than joy and peace and happiness, relationships that cause us stress and struggle and pain and confusion, and can feel like loss. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. But this regular series is always here at 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Something that I've been having so much pleasure doing. Continuing this conversation. If you're watching this and you're wanting to catch old episodes of Multifaceted, you can go back to my YouTube channel, which I will link to this page once I'm done, and all of the episodes are there. So let's dive in to the conversation about clearing through toxic relationship patterns. First of all, acknowledging that they exist, that this is something that so many of us struggle with. We don't always talk about it, unless maybe to our closest friends. It's something that, we can experience in any relationship. The conversation here for today is really kind of more directed to and geared towards our close, intimate relationships, with our partners and our marriages and dating. But toxic relationship patterns can play out everywhere, even in the big picture, even on the grand scheme. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the drama triangle and present that as a very common pattern that plays out in a multitude of scenarios in our lives, in the world. As I'm describing it, you'll probably connect to and notice, especially out in the world, in social media, in the news, where this is playing out all of the time before our eyes. And just acknowledging that it is a toxic pattern. Not much good comes out of this pattern that I'm about to describe. It's a triangle, and within this triangle there are 3 roles. There's 3 roles that will often play out, and as we know, in relationships, it's most often between, me and you. It's a one-on-one relationship, but we often struggle with that intimacy and that connection and that ability to speak from our heart, to speak our truth, to be open and honest with the person, and to also receive their honesty. Also to ask for what we want, what we need. This is something that so many of us struggle with. And because of that, because we maybe didn't learn from an early age to communicate in a way that's healthy, or we didn't know that we had the right to really request and ask of people in our lives for certain things. You know, maybe we were taught from a young age that we had to be a certain way to receive love. Or maybe we witnessed or were part of a drama triangle way before we even really understood that what was happening was wrong, to the point that we're so familiar with these drama triangles that we play them out, we participate in them all the time. So the drama triangle, because it has 3 corners, there's 3 parties involved. And as I mentioned before, in relationships, it's usually between 2 people, right? I mean, of course, there are all sorts of modern relationships out there in the world, but, you know, in terms of looking at, you know, the healthy dynamics between 2 people and where they can start to go astray, it comes as a result of the creation of this drama triangle. So within a drama triangle, this is something that was created by Stephen Cartman in the 60s. He didn't create it, he noticed it and started to describe it. And there's 3 rules. So there's, you know, when a relationship breaks down, when there's a struggle in communication or in coming together between 2 people, a third person usually joins in to this triangulation. So we have the 3 corners, one being the victim, one being the villain or the persecutor, and one being the rescuer. And so, as you can imagine, the original conflict most likely developed between the persecutor and the victim, but then a third person is brought in. And that will play out. If you think about your own, you know, relationship history, your families, maybe at work, how many times you've noticed this situation come to be. You know, how many times and how many scenarios. As I mentioned, this is something that we see playing out in the world right before our eyes all of the time. And of course, it stems from an initial breakdown in communication. And of course, there often is a power play between, you know, the persecutor and the victim in the first place. There's a one up, one down dynamic that is already set up. So one of the things that can often happen, especially in toxic relationships and in personal relationships, within marriages, within dating, is that, you know, at some point along the way, it might have started out as a really beautiful and loving relationship, but then at some point along the way, things started to shift. And a power dynamic was set up. And of course, the love is gone, really, at this point, because there's this power play that's happening. And so we have the persecutor or the villain and the victim. And then to complete the triangle, we have the rescuer who comes along, of course, to rescue the victim and often to also really encourage seeing the villain as the villain. You know, we're at this point, and again, in a lot of relationships, the villain has most likely done some things that are not good. But what happens in the dynamic between the rescuer and the victim is that all we can see now are the flaws and the horrible things that this villain has done. And we've kind of lost perspective of this villain as a whole person, as a person that, you know, has multi-dimensions to them as well. So unfortunately, in these situations when this dynamic is set up, it just becomes a cycle. It becomes something that, you know, if you recognize this, if you connect to this, this is something that you may have noticed play out in your relationships, in your families, in your friend groups, at work. And this whole dynamic ends up just perpetuating more and more of the conflict and the issues. On top of all of this, from the perspective of, who we choose as partners and who we date and who we bring into our lives, we are also often trying to recreate, and this is subconscious, but we're trying to recreate a cycle and a role that we learned to play from an early age. And so we can also start to get ourselves into a pattern of repeated relationships where we play out one of the three roles. And this is something that until we can start to really take a step back and look at, how it is that we are entering into relationships with the people, the kinds of people that we are, and how we are, fulfilling this dynamic. I can speak to years of being in that victim role, and years of really being with someone who, I saw as a villain, as the persecutor, and I had a rescuer. And so this was a dynamic, and if I really dug deep, I could see that this was a dynamic that carried forward from my early family. And this is a dynamic that could have continued on for the rest of my life. And I think one of the most important things is to have the awareness of this happening and to be able to see it playing out and to actually choose to disengage and to step away from this dynamic. Taking our power back, especially if you're connecting to, more of that victim role, but we can all play each of those roles, and you may, if you start to, think back to different areas and moments in your life, you may notice moments when you were seen as the villain, you were seen as the persecutor, or moments in your life where you were the rescuer for someone else going through this dynamic. So, again, just starting to get really clear and noticing where this is happening and choosing to step out of that role so that you're not continuing to perpetuate this. So going back to this pattern of relationships of being in that victim role and of entering into relationships where as that victim, you're accepting less than, you're tolerating mistreatment, you are just really not standing up for yourself, not knowing that you can, or not being in your power, and really not having the ability or the voice or the strength to hold true to yourself and to choose to step out of this pattern. Now, there's no easy answers necessarily, and it is all kind of a case-by-case situation, whether you would, just walk away from this person who you're perceiving as the persecutor or the villain, or maybe things can be repaired. It's, it depends on the severity. It depends on exactly what's going on. Sometimes it's just personality differences and dynamics, and, often that can play out as emotional abuse. And it's something that, we can start to tolerate as victims. And one of the most powerful things in my path and my history, and part of, again, where the comeback queen came from and why I do the work that I do, is the awareness of our ability to connect to our personal power and to make that choice for ourselves, that this cycle will not continue on anymore. To really make that powerful declaration for yourself and to start to look at ways that you can step out of this triangle, this pattern that isn't getting any of us anywhere. Just to really be able to be in your own strength, to have your voice, to set standards and boundaries, to ask for what you're needing, and to just make an inner declaration of what's okay for yourself and what's not, when to stay, when to walk away, And then, of course, on an even deeper level, to do the trauma healing, to look at what went on within your development, within your childhood, within your family of origin, within your early years, that also solidified you potentially being in that role. And that is also a beautiful way to shift out of this perpetuating pattern so that you can start to enter into healthier relationships, healthy attachments, being able to be with someone who you can actually have that one-to-one connection to when things go, to a difficult place, when there is conflict, which within relationships there often will be, that you're able to be safe, you're able to have the conversations, you're able to really state, what's okay and what's not okay, to set those boundaries, and to, most importantly, really be clear on what you want and to ask for it and to know that you are worthy of it. And I have been on several times on this page and within many of the Facebook groups that we're a part of, speaking with my incredible colleague, Saman Nasir, who is a hypnotherapist and has done incredible work with supporting individuals that are experiencing these difficult patterns and to help them clear through the trauma and to release the patterns that are keeping them stuck in this way. So this is one thing I just want you to know. If you're, hearing this and you're wondering how this applies to you and what your options are, that's one incredible way to get headway, to release these patterns, to start to shift into a whole new realm of inner strength, inner awareness, self-love, so that you actually have the opportunity to have the beautiful relationship that you deserve in your life. And again, having this knowledge of how these triangles can play out, being aware when they start to form. And this is a big thing that's going on in the world right now. There are people left and right being villainized, and there's a lot of hate, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of pain. And the way that these triangles are continuing to be perpetuated in the world through social media, through the media, is not getting us anywhere. It's creating more divides, more pain, more suffering, more hurt. And it's really important to start to see them for what they are and to identify them and to choose to walk away from them, to choose to disengage from these moments where no one wins. And it's just a never-ending cycle of pain and ugliness and hurt. And we are, thank you, John. We are here on this planet, I believe, for way bigger and better things than to be stuck in a drama triangle. It's a waste of time, in my opinion. And we have a lot of important work to do. If you feel like you're here for a reason, if you feel like you have, a message that you're here to share, if there is a group of people that you feel like you're here to support and to guide, thank you, John, you too, and to really be there for, if this is something that you feel like you are, you have a calling to support, I think it's so important to listen to that and to tune into that and to realize the other thing that's quite beautiful about all of this is if you have this kind of experience in your life, if you've been through the pain and the confusion and the stress of a drama triangle in your life, you also have a very powerful understanding of this whole human dynamic. So incredible things can come out of those difficult moments in your life. Experience and knowledge and an understanding of what works and what really doesn't work. So that is pretty much everything that I wanted to share on this topic, aside from the fact that it's just so important to get the support that you need. You know, if this is something that you're struggling with, to know that there's no need to continue to struggle and suffer. You know, that I believe it's your birthright to experience peace and joy and love and happiness and comfort, and to be able to experience life and all the incredible things in our world without feeling like we're so caught up in something that is just draining our energy. It's keeping us stuck. It's holding us back. I share a lot in my work of how long, you know, decades before I realized that I was giving my power away to a drama triangle and not doing the work that I'm here for, because I was wasting energy on that. So again, just a really powerful reminder for you that you are here for bigger and better things. And to get the support, you know, there's trauma tied to this. It's looking at how your personal trauma has potentially impacted you, so that this drama triangle where it feeds something in us. It feeds something that isn't healthy, and it is another reason that it perpetuates it. It's almost like an addiction to the drama, an addiction to this high adrenaline stress of always being caught up in that. And my wish for you, if you're experiencing it, is for you to receive the freedom that you are desiring, and to allow yourself to walk away, step out of this. Know that you have the ability to take your power back at any time, even though it might be scary, even though it might be something that you have never done before, or, you know, anytime you've done it before, it's, you know, created difficult things for you. When you shift a dynamic that's been set up for a long time, it can definitely create waves and ripples, and it can create shifts. When you start to do better things for your life, you know, it can create ripples and waves. But again, it's a matter of just holding so true and so strong to what you are here for, what you stand for, to the love that we are all so capable of giving to the world, and we're wasting time getting caught up in things that don't serve us anymore. We are on a beautiful path of evolution if we make the choice to focus on that and to step into that. And I know there's a lot of turbulence and turmoil going on in the world. I'm not oblivious to all of that, but I see it as a drama triangle. And it's not to say that there aren't villains, that there isn't evil in this world, but I see it as misguidedness. I see it as confusion. I see it as a waste of time and energy when we could be focused on doing some really beautiful and incredible things here on this planet. And we all know there's a lot of need. There's a lot of need for positive change. There's a lot of need for healing. And so we can choose, rather than be victims of of circumstance. And rather than reach to a rescuer, we can become our own rescuer. We can take our power back. We can stand tall. We can see where there are aspects of ourselves that no one can touch. And that's our mind, it's our thoughts, it's our spirit. And ultimately that puts the power, our own personal power, squarely back in our hands. So I hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that this provoked some interesting thoughts. I'd love to hear your perspective on this. If you're feeling like you need support, absolutely comment below or reach out. I did want to share, for those of you that have been interested in the prospect of coaching and potentially wondered if it was a little bit out of reach for you, I have a brand new group that I'm launching this Thursday. It's actually in pre-launch right now. And it is a group program. It's called Evoke. And it's a coaching program where you can start to, for a very, very low price, you can start to receive support in a group environment. So it happens within a private Facebook group. We have weekly Facebook Lives. We have monthly Zoom meetings. And it also includes the Roadmap to Your Comeback, which is a 5-day workshop that I used to offer and that I still love, but is now packaged up as a course. And it's an opportunity for you to start to soar and to also, at the same time, and maybe before you start to soar, remember who you are. Remember why you're here, what you came for, and to connect to that, to be supported, to be lifted up, to be seen, to be encouraged, so that you can really start to mobilize and make a difference for yourself and for this planet. So if you're interested in joining Evoke, I have 20 spaces that I've opened up for $22 a month. And it's a great opportunity to receive coaching in a group format. It's very accessible, and it's going to give you an opportunity also to be a founding member and to help shape the group and the future as it develops more and more. So it's a space for you to, once again, remember who you are, to soar, to really start to take off, and to connect to why you're here. So if you're interested in Evoke, you can comment below or you can send me a message. I would love to welcome you into our group. And I'm so excited to continue to meet the women who are joining us. It's going to be an incredibly powerful experience, and we are just getting started. All right. Thank you for watching. So much love, and I will be back again next week to continue the relationship conversation. And I will see you then. Bye.